Okay, welcome everyone. Today Gilbert is still in Taiwan and he asked three of his senior students to teach. And last week we had Harry, next week it will be Mina, and this week it's me. And so let's start with the four great vows. So join palms and let's recite together. I vow to deliver sentient beings. I vow to cut off endless vexations. I vow to master limitless approaches to Dharma. I vow to attain supreme Buddhahood. So let's bow. Okay, so welcome. Today's topic is the many ways of pointing at mind. And I thought it would be interesting to just go through various masters. And across the centuries, and just to see how they describe mind. And I wanted to do it a bit interactively, so I have a couple of books, and I always took just the beginning of the whatever teaching. Open the book, first page, first paragraph, and then we will go through this, and then we can make a break after each master and discuss. Okay. So, and the best place to start is the boss himself, Shakyamuni Buddha, the Dhammapada. And it's a very small book, so you can bring it. You have no excuse not to read the Dhammapada. And it's a very condensed form of the early Buddhist teachings. And interestingly enough, it starts like this. So it's called, the first chapter is called the pairs, because it's always presenting dualistic parts of the teachings. But the very first part goes like this. It talks actually about mind. All things are preceded by the mind, surpassed by the mind, created by the mind. If one speaks or acts with a corrupted mind, then suffering follows as a track follows a wheel. All things are preceded by the mind, surpassed by the mind, created by the mind. If one speaks or acts with a pure mind, then happiness follows as a shadow that never leaves. And I found this pretty amazing, given that it's a Theravada text. And what I found here so interesting whenever I read it, it's that it also can be read as a Mahayana text. Of course, it's not really intended this way, and it depends a little bit on the translations. So here I picked one which makes this parallel very suggestive, but sometimes you can also find other translations that would say all thoughts are preceded by the mind, or sometimes you feel also you find also all phenomena are preceded by mind. So it would be even more Mahayana. So here in this particular translation is all things are preceded by the mind, surpassed by the mind, created by the mind, and is a bit reminiscent of the key sentence also in the Avatamsaka Sutra, that everything is created by mind, which is one of the key Mahayana sutras. So I found this very interesting that in a sense we already have the seed of the Ekayana, the one mind teaching planted here. And then another thing I find interesting here is that it points out the causal nature of things. So depending on one's attitude, one kind of shapes one's experience for self and others. So it's all contained in this very beginning of this important text. So then next I wanted to continue with Bodhidharma, but before we go there, feel free to unmute and to comment if you want. If it's if there's nobody, we can continue. We have many masters to go through. Next thing, would be Bodhidharma. And this is this translation by Red Pine, the Zen teachings of Bodhidharma. And the first chapter is very well known and actually is a part which is attributed to Bodhidharma, and the scholars would agree. But since it's so well known, I thought let's skip this. And the first part would be the entry through the practice and through the principle or the four practices. But I think Gilbert discussed it several times, so I would skip ahead to the next chapter. Chapter 2 is called the Bloodstream Sermon. Can not really see it, and it's again with as all the teachings in the rest of the book, it's not the scholars disagree whether it's really can be attributed to Bodhidharma. It's more likely that it's later masters who wrote it. But I mean, we are not scholars, we are practitioners, and we can just assess on our own whether a text works or not. As a practitioner, that's the criterion. Okay, so the Bloodstream Sermon starts like this, and it's a wonderful text, so I try not to rush through it. So everything that appears in the three realms comes from the mind. Hence, Buddhas of the past and future teach mind to mind without bothering about definitions. So again, everything that appears in the three realms comes from the mind. Hence, Buddhas of the past and future teach mind to mind without bothering about definitions. So this mind-to-mind teaching will be one of the themes through all these texts. So now a question. But if they don't define it, what do they mean by mind? You ask, that is your mind. I answer, that is my mind. If I had no mind, how can I answer? If you had no mind, how could you ask? That which asks is your mind. Maybe we can pause here. The text continues a bit further, but I think here it's already so dense. Yeah, Sam, if you want to chime in.
If I may, I actually thank you, Michael. I find that Bodhidharma's sermons, the bloodstream, the wake up, and the breakthrough, I think that for any Chan practitioner, these are key texts because of how not only straightforward and I like to say there's no fat to it. It's, you know what I mean. It's straight to the point. Bodhidharma is very succinct with what he says. But one thing I actually wanted to ask you about is when they say mind to mind without regard for definitions. Is this about the way that does this relate to the phrase the right man can say the wrong thing and the way will follow him and make it right, where they're not necessarily clinging to it has to be taught a certain way or it has to be a certain set of words, but rather it has to come from the heart, and it has to, if it's in harmony with the way, it's in harmony with the way. It's not about the definitions or the labels or the way it's conceptualized.
Yeah, ultimately this always applies. But it's good that you bring this up, because at this location I wanted actually to mention something which answers your question. I would say the way I understood it, it refers to the so-called four axioms of Chan, which describe the like the special way or style of Zen or Chan as this special transmission outside of doctrine. So this would be outside of definition, not dependent on words or language, nor on concepts, labels, or categories or definitions. So, and then the third which directly points to the mind, directly, without language, directly from mind to mind, seeing one's nature in order to realize Buddhahood.
I've heard this before. I didn't know it was called. Yeah, I know it is the four statements of Zen. Yeah.
And it's also, I mean, this I got from Guru's book on the essence of Chan in the
Mhm.
beginning chapter. And I think it's also mentioned in the Red Pines translation, but it's attributed to Bodhidharma, but again, it's contested, and it doesn't matter. It's precious in itself, and we know how to use it.
Mhm.
Okay, thanks for the question. Yeah, let's continue. So you ask, that's your mind, I answer, that's my mind. If I had no mind, how could I answer? If you had no mind, how could you ask? That which asks is your mind. So you see, this is the answer to a question, and it's such a practical answer. It's not an answer by definition. It's like just, hey, what are you using when this question is asked? What are you using? This is really pointing the mind to look inside and to turn the mind's eye inward. This is a Zen method. And okay, let's continue. Through endless kalpas, without beginning, whatever you do, wherever you are, that's your real mind. That's your real Buddha. This mind is the Buddha. Is here in cursive script. So this mind is the Buddha. Says the same thing. Beyond this mind, you will never find another Buddha. To search for enlightenment or nirvana beyond this mind is impossible. Because where should it be? I mean, here we have to, of course, here we are already deep in the Mahayana, so there's nothing outside of mind, and the mind we are using is not our mind. So it's a totality by definition. So there's no way to seek outside, there's no point to seek outside this totality. Once one understands this, everything starts falling into place. And it's then these sentences also make sense. This mind is the Buddha, says the same thing. Beyond this mind, you will never find another Buddha. Why? Because there's no beyond this mind. It's all there is. To search for enlightenment or nirvana beyond this mind is impossible. The reality of your own self nature, the absence of cause and effect, is what is meant by mind. So again, the reality of your own self nature, the absence of cause and effect, is what's meant by mind. It's interesting with this absence of cause and effect because Gilbert sometimes says Pratitya Samuppada, causes and conditions never fail, is the mind, is Buddha. So here, in a sense, is saying something slightly different. The absence of cause and effect is what's meant by mind. And any idea how we can resolve this apparent or seeming contradiction?
May I be a ball hog?
Hmm?
May I be a ball hog in this sense? I would like to try and give a 2 cents. Um, when it says that I mean, maybe it's a translation. I don't want to say error, but just something to do with the wording. But the absence of causes and conditions, or cause and effect, is the mind, could mean that the absence of external causes and effects, or the idea that cause and effect, or cause and conditions, is happening external or apart from the mind. Which, if you look at it that way, I feel like it's still in line with saying causes and conditions is the mind, because saying it is the mind means that it's not apart from the mind, it's created by the mind. And saying that the absence of it is the mind is saying that the absence of it appearing as external is mind.
Yeah. Yeah, they were, but I mean, at the end, it's just important to chew on it and to not just read through it. And I mean, another way of seeing, and it's probably wrong, is like cause and effect is still a kind of linear chain. Is like it has a temporal axis. Mahayana time at some point collapses, and then the proper way to replace it is instead of just talking about cause and effect, which always has this directionality, to talk about causes and conditions and causation, like co-arising. This would be another way of, but I think ultimately you are right too, that it refers to Lin Chi's statement also, that he has looked so so long and he has never found a trace of karma, because it's all mind, because he's in tune with mind. Once one is in tune with mind, one is in tune with the principle. So relative to this, there's no principle. A bit like this. It's like when you fall with gravity, you don't feel gravity, right? A bit like this. Okay. Any other? Okay, well, otherwise we continue. Um, your mind is nirvana, means mind is liberated already. It's we are using it already, so we are already awake in a sense. We just forgot about it. You might think you can find a Buddha or enlightenment somewhere beyond the mind, but such a place doesn't exist. As long as there's this orientation to the practice, it will never work. So trying to find a Buddha or enlightenment is like trying to grab space. That's a beautiful picture. Is this space here a different one as, I don't know, in on the East Coast or on the West Coast? Is mind different, my mind than your mind? Ultimately not. Apparently, yes, but it's not the essence. The essence is beyond time and space. So here he uses this analogy to space. Space has a name, but no form. It's not something you can pick up or put down. And you certainly can't grab it. Beyond this mind, you will never see a Buddha. The Buddha is a product of your mind. Why look for a Buddha beyond this mind? This would be Bodhidharma. Any comments before we move on? Is this too fast or is this okay? Yeah. Okay, who comes next? Who has a guess? Is a famous master, but it's Matsu. Oh, I forgot to say. I wanted to say Bodhidharma, to convey some useful information, right? Bodhidharma 440 to 528. 440 to 528. Now comes Matsu, 709 to 788. So now we are learning something useful, right? So 300 years later, and the other famous master who came slightly before, who is of course even of more importance to the Zen school, is Huineng, 638 to 713. So this is just to give a little bit of orientation. Okay, Matsu is from this book, The Sun-Faced Buddha, by Mario Podczewski, is the translator. He's a scholar. He was a monk for a long time, and then he became a scholar in Florida, similar as Gurgu, but other university. And wonderful translations about his specialty is Matsu. And the first sermon, so the opening page, goes like this. The patriarch said to the assembly, all of you should believe that your mind is Buddha, that this mind is identical with Buddha. The great master Bodhidharma came from India to China and transmitted the one mind teaching of Mahayana so that it can lead you all to awakening. And before I continue, so the one mind teaching of Mahayana is clear what it is, right? don't show it everyone together, but yeah, I mean it's Ekayana, right? So one mind. And so Matsu, this great master, said that the only thing Bodhidharma brought was the Ekayana understanding of just this mind. So this is also the reason why he came from uh, India to China. The great master Bodhidharma came from India to China and transmitted the one mind teaching of Mahayana so that it can lead you all to awakening. Fearing that you will be too confused and will not believe that this one mind is inherent in all of you, he used the Lankavatara Sutra to seal the sentient being's mind ground. Therefore, in the Lankavatara Sutra, mind is the essence of all the Buddha's teachings. No gate is the Dharma gate. So, mind is the essence of all the Buddha's teachings. No gate is the Dharma gate. Mm. I mean, that's the same refrain as we always hear every week. Any comments here before we continue?
Michael,
Yeah.
I actually did have a quick question, if that's okay. What do you think is meant by, if I heard you correctly, he says that using the Lankavatara Sutra, he sealed the mind ground of sentient beings. What is this? What is this pointing to, in a sense?
Yeah, good question. I've been thinking about this too. Um, I can only guess. So according to my understanding, it's like the mind ground would refer to the Tathagata Gaba school. So the mind only teaching, but not the Yogacara. It's really the just this mind, the Ikayana teaching. And the seal refers, I would say, to this mind-to-mind transmission. But what this has to do with the Lankavatara Sutra is a good question. I would think the Lankavatara Sutra is considered a sutra which has the yoga's chara aspect, but also the Tathagata Gaba aspect. So maybe he brought this just so that he can present something for the those who have doubts. But ultimately, it's mind to mind, so you don't need any sutra to make the magic happen. So yeah, I don't know. It's a good question. Anyone
Thank you.
else wants to answer the question? I don't know. Is Harry here? Not sure. Okay, let's continue. Or did somebody have their hands up? No. Okay. Okay, next paragraph. Those who seek the Dharma should not seek for anything. So those who see the truth, who seek the truth or the true teachings, should not seek for anything. Outside of mind, there is no other Buddha. Outside of Buddha, there is no other mind. Not attaching to good and not rejecting evil, without reliance on either purity or defilement, one realizes that the nature of offense is empty. It cannot be found in each thought because it is without self-nature. So you cannot think your way to enlightenment because thoughts are empty. They are conditioned. They are part of the conditioned process. They are part of samsara, not just phenomena, not just physical processes and appearances, but also thought. The conditioned will never be able to realize the unconditioned. Therefore, the three realms are mind only. So the three realms refer to I guess the desire realm, the form realm, the formless realm of samsara, and they are mind only, which would refer to the Yogacara school, projection only. It's like a virtual reality. So don't attach to it. Don't need deny it, but don't fall for it. And all phenomena in the universe are marked by a single Dharma. So what is the single Dharma? What is the single Dharma which marks all phenomena?
Emptiness.
Yeah, but is emptiness a Dharma?
Hmm. Well, I'm thinking of the Heart Sutra. All dharmas are defined by emptiness.
Well, we will come to the Heart Sutra on the next line. Yeah. But
Oh,
yeah, almost there. Like the logic of the text is moving towards the Heart Sutra. Yeah, but the Dharma, I mean, there's a little footnote here, and the Dharma refers to just mind, yeah. According to the footnote. But I mean, according to what one would guess too. Yeah. So I was happy that the footnote agreed with my shallow understanding. Then it must be true. So whenever we see form, it is just seeing the mind. So now comes we are entering Heart Sutra territory. Whenever we see form, it is just seeing the mind. The mind does not exist by itself. So now it's very interesting. The mind does not exist by itself. Its existence is due to form. Whatever you are saying, it is just a phenomenon which is identical with the principle. So whatever you are saying, it is just a phenomenon. All the blah blah we make, just a phenomenon, which is identical with the principle. And what is the principle? Just mind. So, and the phenomenon is identical with the principle. And mind cannot exist without the phenomena. So it's very interesting that this is like points to this two truths doctrine. You cannot have just the noumenal without the phenomenal and vice versa. And of course, it's this interplay between emptiness is not other than form, and the other way to form not other than emptiness, and all the other five skandhas, which cover all the phenomena. Yeah, Jake.
Does that contradict with what we had said earlier that mind is the absence of cause and effect, the cessation of cause and effect?
Well, this was a Buddha mind, and it said, how did it said? It's beyond, right? I think the way to play with it is always to put these statements out so that at the end to inform the proper practice. So the moment you understand what mind is, you are wrong. Yeah. The moment you think you got it, you are wrong. So it's always trying to present, to hop to the other side, always, to never establish something, to keep it in balance. Yeah. But it's very unstable balance. So you have to work it. Yeah. It's more at the end, what matters is here to wake up to mind and to mind's perception. All other things are pointless. Yeah. Okay, let's finish this paragraph, the Hatsutra paragraph. They are without, so he says, whatever you are saying, it is just a phenomenon which is identical with the principle. They are all without obstruction. And the fruit of the way to Bodhi is also like that. Whatever arises in the mind is called form. So whatever comes, so like this is a way of speaking here. Whatever, in a sense, arises, the arising mind, the conditioned thing, phenomena. Here it's named form. Why not? When one knows all forms to be empty, then birth is identical with no birth. Yeah. So when one knows all forms, the complete totality of all forms to be just process, just empty, then birth is identical to no birth because a process is a process. Doesn't make sense to assign any beginning or end to a process. I mean, maybe a sub-process may have a beginning or end, but it can be always absorbed in a larger process. So the ultimate process, what is this? That would be the phenomenal aspect of mind. And it's no different than mind, and it's not the same. It's a bit the Mahayana logic. And then birth is identical with no birth. Because birth, even, I mean, our human birth, where did it start? It can be traced back to the beginning, to the Big Bang, and where did the Big Bang start? So if one realizes this mind, then one can always wear one's robe and eat one's food. So it means one can always practice, then one is always in tune with the principle, regardless of what one is doing. Nourishing the womb of sagehood, one spontaneously passes one's time. What else is there to do? In a sense, this is this very concise way of the Zen method and the way to practice in this present moment, aligned with the principle and just following function. And then even as a layman or woman, one is wearing the robe, because and one nourishes the womb of sagehood. As soon as you are aligned with the principle, you are in tune with mind and its practice. And the practice consists then in identifying when the mind arises. So when there's always this tendency to fall off and to bifurcate into the conditioned. Does this make sense? This would be Matsu. Before we move on, any question? Yeah, Jake.
I noticed that the language that Matsu used just differed from Bodhidharma, and that like I think Bodhidharma used a lot of like your mind. This is like your mind is just mind, and I think Gilbert says this too, like uh just this very mind, but maybe less of an emphasis. Like he says, you already have it, so it's consistent with that. But I'm wondering like how to grapple with the fact that it's still not really your mind. Gilbert says this as well. I think that was like a heavy emphasis on your mind in Bodhidharma, but it's not your mind, it's just mind. And maybe you don't use mind as much as mind uses you. So I'm
Is
wondering what your
absolute.
thoughts are.
It's the way you say, but I find, and we will see if we make it through at the end, we will have a contemporary, no, we will have a almost contemporary Korean Zen master, and is even worse there. And I find it totally fine. Why? Because, I mean, having been primed by Gilbert's absolute precision about this, one can relax a little bit, because otherwise one becomes dogmatic too. If then one kinds of becomes a mind police and strips off all the yours. And I do this all the time. So, but once one knows, and one can trust a teacher's understanding, then one knows how it's meant, and they mean it totally the way Gilbert uses it. But it has also to do with the translation. So I mean, these are translations from the Chinese. There's no your in the Chinese, as far as I understand. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't speak, but it's, I think, a rendering to the English audience. So it could be just the way Red Pine translated it. So, but in these cases, I always try to make sure how deep is the translator's understanding. Can I trust the text? And once the trust is established, I know how to map it to my terms, and then it flows. But yeah, excellent question. It's especially important when presenting. Yeah. Okay, Penny.
Hi, Michael.
Hi, Penny.
Hi, Jake. I just have a comment to make. I think that Cuban wanted to be very precise in his words because he is at a point that he see us as the person that passing on the baton, the knowledge to the next generations of people. So he wants to make sure that preciseness is in there in his conversation with us, right? So that we understand that there's just this mind, that one mind. I think he has that intentions, at least in my opinion. When we read translations from other people, they may not have that mindset in place. And therefore their translation could be the best intention at that time, whoever did the translations at that time. And of course, this thing also evolve with people. We are all human. I think that if we understand that, you're right. So when we hear other people, when we read other translations, we know that it's just one mind.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely. And I totally agree. And I continue to be very precise about this because it's very helpful when presenting them. But it's then funny to see it in these books, and I'm happy that it was noticed right away. So it's a good sign. And it's,
yeah.
I think, one of the hallmarks of Gilbert's teachings. This is also why I chose him, because I benefited a lot from this precise language.
I'm loving it so far. Continue, please.
Okay, who's next? Is a little bit less famous, but very important too. He's called Hu Hai, Chan Master Hu Hai. Translation by Joan Blofeld, and also known as a Great Pearl. So, and he wrote this text, was assigned to him, The Essential Gateway to Truth by Means of Instantaneous Awakening. So a long title. And we just start. So at the very first paragraph, I didn't want to skip over it, but it's not so relevant. It just expresses his humbleness and that he's going to present the teaching, and he may be wrong. So he just apologizes in advance. So let's go through it. Humbly I prostrate myself before the Buddhas of the 10 quarters and the excellent company of Bodhisattvas. In setting forth this treatise, I am apprehensive that I may fail correctly to interpret the sacred mind. If so, may I be given a chance for repentance and reform. However, if I do succeed in imparting the sacred truths, I dedicate the resultant merit to all living beings in the hope that each of them will attain Buddhahood in their next life. And now it starts. So, part 2. Question. What method must we practice in order to attain deliverance? So, in order to awaken. What method? Answer. So this is a question from somebody to this teacher, Hui Hai. And Hui Hai answers, it can be attained only through a sudden illumination. Sudden illumination, we know this in the Chan school. Question, what is sudden illumination? Answer, sudden means ridding yourself of deluded thoughts instantaneously. So what are deluded thoughts? So the notion here of deluded thoughts could either mean thoughts in general are deluded, or maybe there may be also a way to have non-deluded thoughts. So it can mean both. But sudden means ridding yourself of deluded thoughts instantaneously. And illumination means the realization that illumination is not something to be attained. So it's again very funny because the question originally was, what is sudden illumination? So illumination is the realization that illumination is not something to be attained. So it's again stripping off all ways, like it's aligned with the Heart Sutra. There's nothing to attain, right? but there's still something to wake up to. And the way to do it is to rid yourself of deluded thoughts. From where do we start this practice? Is the next question. From where do we start this practice? Answer. You must start from the very root. Question. And what is that? What is the very root? I will let you answer this. What is the very root? Where to start the practice?
Just mind.
Yeah, just mind. Exactly. Let's see whether that's true. Answer. Mind is the root. Mind. So you see, I mean, this is really, as Gilbert like really feeds us over all these years. You find it in these Tang Master Dynasty texts. Mind is the root. How can this be known? So again, the next question: how can we know this? How can this be known? Can one trust the master? And now the answer is, and it refers to this question of the mind seal and Bodhidharma. So the answer is, the Lankavatara Sutra says, when mental processes arise, then do all dharmas, phenomena, spring forth. So it's interesting. When mental processes arise, when the arising mind, then all dharmas spring forth. Is if your phenomenal world is booted up in the same instance with the appearance of deluded thought. And when mental processes cease, then do all dharma cease likewise. So we have this arising and then the ceasing, and it reminds me of this very condensed formula of Pratitya Samuppada, not the 12 links, but with this arises, with this ceases, but here it's more the Mahayana take of it. It's related to all dharmas arise, not just the mental formations. In the early Buddhism, the Pratitya Samuppada is more linked to the arising of the mental fabrications and so. But here it's linked to the arising of this phenomenal world. And then the Vimalakirti Sutra is next. The Vimalakirti Sutra says, those desiring to attain the Pure Land must first purify their own minds. For the purification of mind is the purity of the Buddha land. So whether you are in a Buddha land or not depends on your mind and on the purity of your own mind. So it's ultimate, like speaking as a physicist now, it's the ultimate relativity theory. The sutra of the doctrine bequeathed by Buddha, I don't know what sutra this is, says, but it's interesting what it says, just by mind control, all things become possible to us. Just by mind control, all things become possible to us. It's a bit like this Mani pearl, right? This wish-fulfilling gem. In another sutra, it says, sages, is also interesting, sages seek from mind, not from the Buddha. Fools seek from the Buddha instead of seeking from mind. So again, sages seek from mind, not from the Buddha. Fools seek from the Buddha instead of seeking from mind. It's, of course, very similar to this other phrase of this slogan by Gilbert. So sages return consciousness to mind, and fools turn mind into consciousness. Wise men or women regulate their minds rather than their persons. Fools regulate their persons rather than their minds. So it's like the proper practice doesn't consist in becoming a, how does he always say, a better citizen, right? The Sutra of the Names of the Buddha states, evil springs forth from the mind, and by the mind is evil overcome. Thus, we may know that all good and evil proceed from our minds and that mind is therefore the root. So here we come to a full turn. If you desire deliverance, and this is also interesting now, the next phrase, if you desire deliverance, if you want to awaken, you must first know you must first know all about the root. So you have to really figure out how mind works. You will need to realize right view. Otherwise, is hopeless. Unless you can penetrate to this truth, all your efforts will be in vain. For while you are still seeking something from forms external to yourself, you will never attain. And then the last sentence, the Dhyana Paramita Sutra says, for as long as you direct your search to the forms around you, you will not attain your goal even after eon upon eon. Whereas by contemplating your inner awareness, you can achieve Buddhahood in a single flash of thought. So by proper contemplation, informed by right view, that you already got it, it can happen in a snap of a finger. I mean, this is a beautiful text. And of course, all these texts I presented, one could go on and on. I couldn't pick any favorite, but I just wanted to present here that they all say the same at the very beginning, more or less. I would have two other masters, but before we move on, what's your comment about this? How does it differ to Matsu and to Bodhidharma? Comment? At the end, I will ask you which master you preferred. Okay, let's move on. Now I have a Japanese. So Master Basui, mud and water. And we are now moving forward in time, 1327 to 1387. So it's like 700 years later or so, or 600 years. Okay, part one, beginning of the teaching. A layman asked, so we are all lay people, asked this teacher, this Japanese teacher. Now let's see whether there's a difference in style. A layman asked, though Zen is said to be transmitted outside the scriptures and not through words, there are many more incidents of monks questioning teachers and inquiring of the way than in the teaching sects. So it means, how comes Zen emphasizes so much on the transmission of the understanding beyond words? How comes they produce so much literature compared to other forms of Buddhism? How can Zen be said to be outside the scriptures? And can reading the records of the old masters and seeing how they dealt with koans ever be considered outside the realm of words? What is the true meaning of the statement, outside the scriptures, not through words? So this is a question the layman asks Basui. How would we answer this question? What is the true meaning of the statement, outside the scriptures, not through words? If somebody were to ask you, what would you say?
The words are the finger, but they're not the moon.
It's still words. Yeah.
I would
Sam?
stare at them blankly.
What?
I would stare at them blankly in silence, maybe with a small smile.
Okay. The master called to him at once, Koji. So apparently Koji is a term for a lay student. So he shouts, Koji. Koji responded immediately, yes. The master said, From which teaching did that yes come? From which teaching did that yes come? So it's the opposite of silence. It's a shout, and I mean they do a lot of this in Japan, and but yeah, that's their way of pointing to mind without words. From what teaching did that yes come? The layman then lowered his head and bowed. The master then said, when you decide to come here, you do so by yourself. So now it will be full of selves. When you decide to come here, you do so by yourself. When you want to ask a question, you do it by yourself. You do not depend on another, nor do you use the teachings of the Buddha. This mind, which directs the self, is the essence of the transmission outside the scriptures and not through words. So this I really marked it. I love this sentence. So this mind, which directs the self, is the essence of the transmission outside the scriptures and not through words. So basically it's saying exactly, and here it's like differentiating between the self and that there's something which directs the self, which is the true mind. And it's the essence. So that what directs the self is the essence towards our practice is directed. And it means the transmission, it points directly to what the transmission outside the scriptures and not through words points to. It is the pure Zen of the Tathagata. It is the pure Zen of the Tathagata. So I marked there Ekayana. I don't know whether I think it applies, but because this is in a sense pointing towards mind and saying there's no more than this, and this is to be realized, and then you got it. This is the one vehicle. Clever worldly statements, the written word, reason and duty, discrimination and understanding cannot reach this Zen. One who looks penetratingly into his true self, ouch, but we know how it meant. One who looks penetratingly into his true self and does not get ensnared in words, nor stained by the teachings of the Buddhas and patriarchs, one who goes beyond the singular road which advances toward enlightenment and does not let cleverness become his downfall, will, for the first time, attain the way. So I read it again, this last thing. One who looks penetratingly into his true self and does not get ensnared in words, nor stained by the teachings of the Buddhas and patriarchs, one who goes beyond the singular road which advances towards enlightenment and does not let cleverness become his downfall, will for the first time attain the way. So once you taste non-duality, and then stabilize the mind to act from there, that's it. Then the real practice begins. Yeah, so I marked here contemplation versus cogitation. This is something Gilbert always emphasizes. So it's, in a sense, the proper contemplation. To use mind by means of contemplation, not get hung up in cogitation. And yeah, turning the mind's eye inward. And also, one who goes beyond the singular road, which advances towards enlightenment. So I would say this points to this, like, there's nothing wrong with staying on this road towards enlightenment. I would say this is a gradual path and one has to go it, but at some point there must be this jump. So one needs to go beyond this practice. And one can just jump one time. So for the first time, attain the way. That's my understanding. And of course, then it continues, but this would be Basui. Any comments? Did you feel a difference, like in style? Yeah. Now comes something totally different. the Zen teachings of Zen master Mangong. Is a Korean master. It was handed out to me. It's out of print. It's a beautiful book. I got it from the Zen school, the Kwan Zen school in Dresden. I gave them, I visited them when I was at a conference in Dresden, and I brought them some books of Master Shin-eng, and in return I got the grant teacher of Song Master Song San. So I'm not sure they ever met, maybe not, but more the Sigung of Sung San, which was a famous Song Korean Zen teacher and founder of the Kwan Zen school, which is beautiful. Okay, this is will be interesting, and this will be the last one. So, chapter 1. What am I? The necessity of finding your true self. Okay, so here we go. So, first sentence. It is said that humans are the most precious of all things because they can attain their true nature. It is said that humans are the most precious of all things because they can attain their true nature. It's a bit also mentioned in the early teachings that Buddhism, that the human realm is a very good realm to be born into, to practice. True nature means total freedom. So true nature, of course, means mind, the way we use it, means total freedom. Being in charge of one's life. Yet human beings are rarely free any time or place. They can't control their lives because their deluded thinking, and then in parentheses it writes small I, their deluded thinking, becomes the boss, while their true nature is just a slave. So deluded beings and sentient beings live upside down. They just follow habitual tendencies and don't use mind the way they could. The small I, deluded thinking, is the offspring of true nature. So it's interesting. The small I, the deluded mind, is the offspring of true nature. It's not separate. It's the offspring. It's a child. Deluded thinking arises from selfish desire. True nature, clear mind or bodhisattva mind, in parentheses, is correct mind, which has no beginning and no end. It has no existence or extinction, yet it lacks nothing. I mean, this is a very consistent way of talking about mind, but in a totally different vocabulary. But it's aligned with it, our understanding too. How is a human being who has lost sight of his true nature any different from an animal which only pursues sex and food instinctively? No matter how great and famous you are, if you do not attain your true nature, you are just like a molecule, subject to the 4 types of birth and the 6 realms of existence, samsara. I think it's clear. I forgot to say when this master lived, from 1872 to 1946. And I'm halfway through the part I wanted to present from him. Any comments so far? I find his style very fresh and different, but in a good way. Okay, number 5. In our world, most people live together, sharing a lifestyle, mindlessly following their karma. Their lives just happen without direction. They don't see the terrifying thing waiting for them. When death comes, they are blind to what lies ahead. So therefore also this urge always from the masters or realized beings to us practitioners to try to figure it out this lifetime. we are so close. We have come in contact with these teachings, so we know that there's something to be realized here. Most people don't know this. If number 6, if I shout someone's name, they immediately answer, yes, that's true nature. So this refers to Basuri's story. True nature has no birth or death. It can't catch fire, get wet, or be cut with a knife. It is completely free and without any hindrance. Number 7. Just like a prisoner screaming as he's dragged, twisting behind a horse, the chains of karma drag us down the road of suffering. Repeatedly, we follow the cycles of life, sickness, old age, and death. Only your wisdom sword can cut these chains. Yeah, so one has to cut through delusion. Otherwise, we will remain bound by habitual tendencies, karma, and can't transcend suffering. I mean, this is basic Buddhism. Number 8, no matter how well educated or respected you are, if you haven't resolved the great question of life and death, you are like a person who has lost their mind. Number 9, when Shakyamuni Buddha was born, he pointed with one hand to the sky and the other hand to the ground and said, between the heavens above and the earth below, only I am holy. This I means the true nature. That's not a sentence Gilbert would use, but we know exactly how it's meant. And it also is similar to a recent teaching Gilbert brought up. Like, do you know which one? Only I am holy. This I means the true nature. It reminded me of this, I am the unobstructed, this exclamation from Manjusri. And it's similar to the Advaita Vedanta teachings when seen from this angle. So, okay, 2 more. Everyone already has Buddha nature, true nature, but they cannot become Buddha because they do not understand themselves. So we have it already, but we can't because we lack right view. So it's the attitude is not dialed in correctly. So even though we all use Buddha nature right now, we can't open up to it. Number 11, the last one for today. Everything is true nature. In parentheses, big I. Everything is true nature. If you apply effort to anything other than finding it, even the smallest amount, it is a waste. So both eyes should be on the practice. All the other stuff is also important in life, but in a sense, having come in contact with the practice, we know that this should be the principle around we organize a life, not the other way around. Okay, so this was Zen Master Man Gong. I also had 2 other things, but I think it would be too long. So we can stop here. And this will finish our tour through the centuries. Yeah, so feel free to unmute yourself and to chime in. We still have 20 minutes or so, but we can also stop in 10 minutes. Up to you.
Hello?
Yeah, Meili.
Yes. Anyway, I just really enjoyed it, even though your accent or things you are reading, actually I cannot phrasing by phrasing understand it. But I realized today when I listened to your sharing, I laugh a lot. I just cracking laughing some moments. And I specifically kind of amazed. I'm not sure this word is correct, amazed, but really appreciate the Korean monk, what he said. So if you can leave the note on our group, I would really appreciate it, and then maybe hopefully to get some information from this monk and his sharing. So I just wanted to share my gratitude, and it's also very refreshing morning.
Morning.
Yes. Yeah,
Well, that's all the morning.
yeah. Taiwan morning. That's right. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
good when the mornings are refreshing. Yeah, actually, you know what? I had prepared. I have all the readings I have. I have a PDF, and I thought about reading it. So for these cases where it's difficult to follow, but I decided reading it instead without using the text. But I have it ready, so I can just upload it to the cloud and post it. Are you on the Mindwork forum?
Yes, I am in this app, the mic. Yeah, this app group.
APP group? Is this like the Mindwork?
My work, the
Okay.
forum. Yes,
I will,
yes, I
I
am.
will I will upload the PDFs, and you will find all the
Mm.
text, exactly what I read with all the references. You can click on it, and yeah,
Yeah. Thank you very much. Yes.
try to
Thank
work
you.
on my accent.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Sam, you're unmuted.
Thank you, Michael, for the lecture today. I knew it was really good because I was actually surprised it was had already been an hour since you started when you finished. I felt like it was much shorter. I was a little sad we couldn't keep going, but it was a very good presentation, and the way you commentated on the passages after, I found very helpful. Your perspective made it much clearer to see these teachings, especially a few things like you touched on principle and phenomena. The one teacher talking about that. That's something, discussions surrounding that exact topic have been very difficult for me for a long time. And I felt like the way you broke it down was very clear and made it a lot more succinct to see. And I found it very interesting how the Korean master spoke as well. Like she said previously, it's very like talking about how the small I is like the baby, or like the child of the true nature, the true mind. I felt was a very good metaphor. But I just thank you, Michael. That was really insightful. Thank you.
Thanks, Sam. Yeah. Yeah. Anyone else? I had to, yeah, Penny, just a thing, and Jake, I just had two other things prepared. I just mentioned it because they will be part of the PDF. There's a Tibetan master I also like. He's still alive. He's alive and active. He's still relatively young. Chokyi Nyima Rinpoche, and then the Lankavatara Sutra. And this would have been more about Dzogchen and the dream, that everything is a dream. So it's not totally perfect fit, but would have been interesting too. Maybe next time. Yeah, but Penny and I think Jake, right?
Hey, Michael, thank you so much for presenting this. I really enjoy what you're sharing. I think that we can see walking through from Bodhidharma to the present master. We can all see that they're all saying the same thing. They may have the different style, but the message is there. I think you thread them nicely for us. And I love your accent, so thank you for that.
Thanks, Penny. Okay, Jake, did you want to say?
Sure, yeah. I just this was really nice. I've been sort of contemplating about some of the topics that you discussed today since the retreat, because I think Gilbert sort of hammered home for me that it's not your mind different from mind, it's just mind. And so this was a really great thing for me to hear. And the reason I ask the questions the way that I do is not to try to nitpick, who's like this is inconsistent with that, but it's also like it's hard for me to feel in a position to say like, oh, this Zen master actually meant this other thing. So sometimes I don't know if it's me fully misunderstanding something, or if I should try to read it for what I think that they meant to say and what the meaning is meant to be. And I think seeing these different texts in conversation helps train that sort of task, like train that type of a way to read these texts. And so I think this is a really good like exercise to teach me how to read across different masters. So I really appreciated this. I thought this was really nice.
It's like becoming proficient at translating from one language to the other without like just that it flows naturally. And this comes through the practice. And yeah, I had to go through exactly this. So by reading different masters, and there's always this thing, is it like sometimes for me it was a big thing, can I trust their understanding? Or is something wrong with my understanding? So for a long time it was this, until I relaxed a little bit. So well, when they are masters, they probably figured it out, even if the way they talk about it is a bit different than what I'm used to. Okay. Any other comment? So next time it will be Mina, I'm not sure. Yeah, Mina is also there. So if that's not the case,
Michael, I wanted to actually ask you, of all of the texts you presented, which one were you most excited to or most happy to present on?
I think it's two texts. So I think it's Bodhidharma. I always come back to Bodhidharma.
Yes.
And the Korean guy. I find it so refreshing.
Mm-hmm. He's very recent too. You said he was from the late 1800s to like 1940 something.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Yeah, that's very, very. I was gonna say he's pretty young.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you, actually, everyone, who is your favorite from today's reading? But yeah, you don't need to answer.
What was the Korean Zen master's name again?
So it's called, I will put it online, Zen
yeah.
Master Man Gong, and you will find the book is out of print, but it's freely available as a PDF, Man Gong.
Thank you, Rachel. I just saw your message. Thank you.
And Sung San is a wonderful Zen master too. He wrote the Compass of Zen, and he died in the 90s, I think. But
Oh wow.
yeah. Okay, good. Well, thanks for joining and hanging in there, and thanks, Ernest, too. And see you next week when it's Mina's turn. So have a good week. Bye-bye.
Bye everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you again, Michael. That was great.
Yes, thank you, Michael. Good night.
Good night.